Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. You know, it is quite possibly the most famous opening line in all of literature. With just those few words, a grieving friend steps right in front of a furious mob and begins a speech that will absolutely change the course of history. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so excited you're here with us. Today, we are decoding a brilliant and honestly highly dangerous speech, Mark Antony's funeral oration from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. We're going to look closely at the literary weapons Antony used to completely manipulate a crowd and basically start a revolution. Here is our roadmap for the Explainer today. 1. Meet Shakespeare and Caesar. 2. An impossible situation. 3. The weapons of irony and repetition. 4. Logic versus raw emotion. 5. Painting with words. And 6. The power of persuasion. All right, let's get into it. Section 1. Meet Shakespeare in Caesar. So, the words we are analyzing today were written by William Shakespeare, the legendary English playwright, who you might know as the Bard of Avon. Living from 1564 to 1616, he wrote a staggering 37 plays. He deeply explored human nature, and he was totally fascinated by themes of power, ambition, and betrayal, all of which collide spectacularly in the story of Julius Caesar. Now, what's truly fascinating here is the blend of fact and fiction. In actual history, Julius Caesar was a real Roman dictator who was assassinated by senators, including guys named Brutus and Cassius on March 15, 44 BCE. But the speech we're studying today comes from Shakespeare's famous tragedy written around 1599. Shakespeare basically took real historical events and transformed them into this absolute dramatic masterpiece. Section 2. An impossible situation. Okay, I want you to imagine you are Mark Antony. The scene is set right after the martyr. The assassin, Brutus, has just spoken to the Roman public, and they are completely on his side. They actually believe killing Caesar was a good thing for the Republic. Antony now faces a violently hostile audience. If he defends Caesar too strongly, the crowd might literally kill him. So, the big question is, how do you change the minds of thousands of angry people without becoming their next victim? Section 3. The weapons of irony and repetition. First up, we must understand verbal irony. In simple English, this is when you say the exact opposite of what you really mean, usually to express sarcasm or to reveal a deeper truth. See, Antony cannot directly call the assassins traitors, so he uses irony instead as his weapon. Listen to how sneaky he is with this. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. At first, he sounds polite, right? He seems to be agreeing with Brutus. But by continually listing Caesar's good deeds right before saying this line, Antony subtly turns the word honourable into a total insult. It is a masterful, sarcastic attack hidden right inside a compliment. And then he pairs this irony with a technique called repetition, specifically anaphora, that is pronounced anaphora, which is repeating a word or phrase to really drive a point home. Antony doesn't just call them honorable men once. Oh no, he hammers away at it. Over and over, he repeats the exact same phrase. And this brilliantly illustrates the effect it has. Notice how the crowd's belief in Brutus just plummets. With each mention of honorable men, the phrase sounds more and more hollow. Antony forces the crowd to compare Brutus's claim that Caesar was dangerous against the actual proof of Caesar's kindness. By the end of the speech, just by repeating that one ironic phrase, the crowd's loyalty to Brutus completely collapses. Section 4. Logic versus raw emotion. So, the crucial point here is understanding how Antony attacks. When Brutus spoke, he used cold logic and reason, something we call logos. But Antony, he does the exact opposite. He appeals directly to their emotions, which is known as pathos. He pauses his speech, claiming his heart is in the coffin with Caesar, showing the crowd his raw, unfiltered grief. This emotional assault is far more contagious than Brutus's cold reasoning. To really engage the crowd's emotions, Antony uses rhetorical questions. He reminds them that Caesar wept when the poor cried, and then asks, "Did this in Caesar seem ambitious?" Now, he doesn't answer it himself. He makes the crowd answer no in their own minds. By making the citizens actively rethink the situation, they feel like they discovered the truth all by themselves. It's brilliant. Section 5. Painting with words. Antony also uses sound and imagery to strike a devastating emotional blow.
He uses alliteration, like the repeating R and C sounds in Friends, Romans, Countrymen, to create a sort of musical rhythm that draws listeners in. But he doesn't stop at just sound. His most shocking tactic is visual. His use of vivid metaphor. He holds up Caesar's bloody cloak and points directly to the rips in the fabric.
He cries out, "Show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor dumb mouths, and bid them speak for me." This right here is hyperbole, or extreme exaggeration. He describes Caesar's stab wounds as dumb mouths that are silently screaming for justice. By doing this, Antony transforms a distant political assassination into a gruesome, deeply personal tragedy for every single person standing in that crowd.
Section 6. The power of persuasion.
Now, to push the crowd over the edge into total chaos, Antony teases a parchment, Caesar's will. He pretends he shouldn't read it, which of course makes the crowd absolutely demand it. When he finally reveals that Caesar left every citizen 75 drachmas and access to his private public orchards, the crowd erupts. They scream for revenge. They scream for fire. Total mutiny is sparked.
Just follow this ripple effect, which shows the absolute devastation caused by this masterclass in persuasion. Antony starts with a speech appealing to emotion. That shifts public opinion to outrage. That outrage sparks deadly riots. And those riots, they plunge the entire Roman Empire into a bloody civil war. Words alone caused an empire to tear itself apart. Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away today. These literary devices we talked about, irony, repetition, emotional appeal, they aren't just old textbook terms from 1599. They are tactical tools. If Mark Antony could start a war with one carefully crafted speech, how do the influencers, politicians, and public relations experts of today use these exact same tricks to shape your world? Pay close attention to the words you hear, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.